Oh, okay, okay. And let me see. I am back. We have a bunch of blank windows too. Ah, okay. Um, yeah, well, let me see. Hopefully you guys can hear me okay. I'm not sure. Yeah, I guess just let me know. Harold, are you there?
Yes,
Whatever.
I am here. I want
Okay.
to ask.
You
That's a
wanted to
great
ask?
interview. How did you
Yeah,
get
well,
that one?
thank you. I've had his contact info for a while. I've just kind of kept reaching out to him. He doesn't respond that well to but yeah, you'd asked in chat though. You'd asked, how did I end up doing those? I pasted a link in. I actually have a channel
Yeah.
for those.
Thank you for the link.
Yeah, I'm kind of a one-trick pony. I mean, like when you look at Mark, Mark Sokol, right? He's got a growing lab and he's doing tons of experiments, and he's going to all these conferences and doing stuff. So that's my other thing. My other thing is doing the interviews, and in many ways not as exciting as what he does. But um, where that came from was, this goes back to 2002. I started a website, American Anti-Gravity, right, which you may have seen.
Yes, I
And
have.
um, it just for various reasons, it was popular in the media, and so I did radio and TV. I did a lot of radio and TV for 3 or 4 years. Um, and I had tons and tons and tons of website traffic. And back then, it was a lot easier to get traffic than it is today, right? So I had millions of people cruising through the website, and so my initial focus was lifters. That was what the radio and the TBL wanted to hear about, and I started it as an experimental site. I would put up videos and all that kind of stuff. And it didn't take long before I started to meet other folks in the community, right? Just like yourself. But in addition to that, I also noticed, that um, I had all of these visitors there, and I would come across these ideas, and I was like, you know what? How can I connect these people who are visiting my website to these brilliant ideas that I'm seeing? So I changed things from kind of an experimental website to being more of an interview site. And the more of that I did, kind of the more excited I got about it. One of the things that there have been a few things that I've noticed. One of them is, okay, if you watch like History Channel or Discovery Channel, any of those kind of mainstream outlets, right? They may have, like, you've got like Ancient Aliens and Ghost Hunters and all these shows. Those cover a lot of these ideas. Well, when I was doing radio and TV, especially TV, what I found was, if a TV crew comes to film with you, they may film for 4 to 8 hours, and they'll go through your entire background, right? They'll capture everything. And what'll end up going on TV is about 10 minutes worth of footage. And the rest of it, they probably just store it in a vault or they throw it away. And that's a tragedy, because then you think about, um, well, like one example that comes to mind is Boyd Bushman. He would be one example. John Hutchison is another example. Both of them have done shows like this, right? Where somebody came to their place and filmed for hours and hours and hours. And all of that really amazing information that gave away just got discarded. So part of the reason that I started doing the interviews was I wanted to kind of give people enough time to complete these thoughts, like, okay, here's some important points. We can't cover everything, but here are some important points, and then just let them roll with it. Let them finish what they're thinking. So part of it was that, and then the other part for me was, again, probably just like yourself, probably like most of us, um, in the pre-internet days, all we could get was like books and papers and stuff like that. And even now with the web, um, it's easier to get those materials, but it doesn't always flesh out the thought process of the person behind them. And so the other thing that excites me about doing interviews is it lets you kind of see how that person thinks and solves problems. and it does it in a personal way, so you kind of understand their personality a little better, you know. And the APEC does that. Our conference does that. It's like when people present, it's not just paper with the idea. It's also, how did this person come across the problem, and what is the process they use to solve it, you know. And so my hope is that it just provides a little bit more depth, you know. And then, like, when you are doing your research, then it's another resource where maybe you don't understand something, or maybe you hit a roadblock. It's like, well, okay, here's just another bit of information that provides a little bit more depth and a little bit different perspective, and maybe that'll help. So that's, you know, that's kind of where I'm at with the interviews. That's just my pet project. I don't get paid or anything for doing them. It's just something that, you know, I like to do them because they seem to get used. The ones that I did for American Anti-Gravity, people reference those. I'm like, you know what, if something that I did helps, then, you know, I'm happy to do it.
Well, that's a good reason. We all benefit the better for it, because it's important to know how do the people come up, you know, like Alcubierre did just now. And he's such a big figure, so important, you know, that for him to say how he did it, because so many people follow him and admire him. And look at all the people doing, you know, warp drive research only because he wrote that paper, and he have grown to be a great figure. And that's why I asked you the question, is that your masterpiece? Because around the world, I'm sure everybody heard about Alcubierre Drive and how important it is. But here he's saying, oh, that's gold. And that's what counts, you know. Because a lot of people would like to meet Tesla, Thomas Edison, and all those people. But here we have meeting the one of our time to interact. And that's wonderful. And I thank you for that. Doing a great job in maintaining those interviews.
Oh, well, thank you as well. Thank you as well. I mean, again, I'm just happy that, you know, I'm happy if it helps even a little bit, you know. And you know, with somebody like Miguel Alcubierre, it's, you know, it was an honor to be able to interview him. And, you know, but it's also exciting to be able to, again, flesh that out a little bit. Say, okay, here's the person who came up with the idea, and if you're looking at his papers, maybe this can help you understand how he came up with them a little better, you know. And for me, that's, I mean, that's a success right there, if I'm able to do that, you know. Yeah, well, so I think, why don't we do this? Oh, Jared had a question.
Yeah, just a quick question for you.
Oh, yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Two questions, actually. I noticed that I didn't hear him mention Eric Lentz's paper at all that removes the negative energy requirements, which I have to imagine he's read.
I'm sure he has. And I can't speak to the technical aspects of it. I'm just too rusty on the physics, to be honest. I'll just be honest with you. I've been in the business world for like 12 years now, so.
And then a follow-up question. So yeah, that was an awesome interview. Is there anyone else that you may or may not have nailed down yet, but that you're really hoping to nail down an interview with?
Well, so yeah, I'm working on one right now. Hopefully this will be next week, with Ryan Graves. And he was one of the F-18 pilots who was involved with the UAPs. And he's also, he's very active with it right now. So it'll be exciting to see kind of what he says. If you have questions for him, email those over, and I'll try and work them all in, but yeah, I would say just email your questions over for Eric, and and I'll also try and get him to speak. Now, one of the things that I found, it really varies from person to person. I kind of come across these, like for instance with Miguel, I came across that because I was trying to get him to speak at APEC. Some folks are just not comfortable in a large environment to start out with, whereas others are, and so with the interview, it was kind of like, okay, well, if he doesn't have the time, he doesn't have the couple hours on Saturday kind of a thing, I said, well, how would you feel about doing an interview? And then, I could play that. So that was kind of where that came from. With Ryan, it's kind of the same way, although I hope to get him to speak at some point. You know,